More than 5,000 men gave their blood to catch this man. He was not one of them. 2 girls, both 15, killed 3 years apart on footpaths less than a mile from each other. A police force that did something no police force had ever done, asked every man in 3 villages to prove he was not the killer, using a science that was barely 2 years old. 5,000 samples. Not one of them matched. What caught him was a sentence, said out loud on a Saturday lunchtime in a pub in Leicester by a man who thought he was telling a funny story about doing a mate a favor. A woman at the next table heard every word of it. Then she waited 48 days before she picked up a phone. I want to show you what she heard and why she waited. Everything in this film is real. The path, the village, the pub, the police photograph, the laboratory where this science was invented a few miles up the road. Narborough, Leicestershire, 21st of November, 1983. Lynda Mann is 15. She takes a footpath the locals call the Black Pad. It is a shortcut everyone uses. She never gets home. She is found the next morning. She has been raped and strangled. The police take a sample from her body, and in 1983 that sample can tell them one thing only: the killer's blood group, shared with about 10% of men in England. 10% of men is not a suspect. It is a crowd. The case goes cold for 3 years. 6 miles away, at the University of Leicester at 9:05 in the morning on the 10th of September 1984, a geneticist named Alec Jeffreys takes a sheet of X-ray film out of a developing tank and sees something no one has ever seen: a ladder of dark bands belonging to exactly one human being and no other. He is not thinking about murder. He is thinking about paternity tests and immigration cases. It will be another 2 years before anybody points this at a killer. 31st of July, 1986. Dawn Ashworth is 15. She takes a shortcut home through Enderby along a footpath called 10-Pound Lane. She is found 2 days later, on the 2nd of August. Same age as Lynda. Same method. Under a mile away. Richard Buckland is 17 years old, a kitchen porter, and has learning difficulties. He knows things about where Dawn was found that the police have not made public. Under questioning, he admits to killing her. He also flatly denies killing Lynda Mann. That is the problem. 2 identical murders, a mile apart, and a confessed killer who will only take one of them. So Leicestershire Police do something that has never been done in a criminal case anywhere in the world. They send the samples to Jeffreys and ask him to compare the 2 crime scenes with the boy in the cell. They expect confirmation.
The same man killed both girls. That man was not Richard Buckland.
In November 1986, Richard Buckland walked out. He is the first person in the history of the world to be cleared by DNA evidence. The science had just proved it could empty a cell. Nobody yet knew whether it could fill one. January 1987. Every man between 17 and 34 living in Narborough, Enderby, and Littlethorpe is asked to give a sample of blood. Voluntarily. Refusing is not a crime, but in a village of a few thousand people, everybody knows who refused. They come in their hundreds. Village halls, evenings after shifts, sleeves rolled up, more than 5,000 men in total. It is the largest screening of its kind ever attempted, and the first anywhere. It takes months, it costs a fortune, and it produces nothing, not one match. The reason it failed was working in a bakery in Leicester and finding the whole thing funny. Here is how it was done, in the words of the official record.
Mr. Pitchfork was asked on a number of occasions to cooperate in the inquiry to eliminate suspects and became alarmed. Mr. Pitchfork paid money to a work colleague who falsely represented him at the center where samples were taken. Mr. Pitchfork substituted the man's photograph onto his own passport in a way that does not reveal any tampering. The man learned to practice Mr. Pitchfork's signature and later gave a blood and saliva sample to the police pretending he was Mr. Pitchfork.
Read that again, because there are 2 separate pieces of work in it. The passport was altered well enough that nobody at the screening center saw it, and Ian Kelly, 23 years old, a baker, practiced another man's signature until he could produce it in front of a police officer. That is not a favor done on a whim. That is preparation. On the 29th of January 1987, Kelly walked in and gave his blood as Colin Pitchfork. The sample was clean, because Kelly had never hurt anyone in his life. And with it, Colin Pitchfork was formally eliminated from a double murder inquiry. 1st of August, 1987. A Saturday, lunchtime. The Clarendon, a pub in Leicester. 4 people from the bakery are drinking together, and Ian Kelly tells them what he did. At the next table is a woman named Jackie Foggin. She is 28. She hears a man say, out loud, that he gave blood in another man's name during a murder investigation. And then she does nothing at all. That is the gap between hearing it and reporting it. I went looking for an explanation in the record, and there isn't one. So I am not going to invent a reason for her. What we can say is what it is not. It is not a story about a hero. It is a story about an ordinary person carrying something she was not sure about, around people she worked near, about a man she did not know, in a case where the police had already been wrong once, in public, about a teenager. On the 18th of September 1987, she told them. The next day, officers arrived at a house in Littlethorpe and arrested a 27-year-old baker with a wife and 2 children. His blood matched both girls. On the 22nd of January 1988, at Leicester Crown Court, Colin Pitchfork pleaded guilty to both murders. Life imprisonment, minimum 30 years, reduced by the Court of Appeal in May 2009 to 28, which after time already served came to 27 years and 242 days. That minimum expired more than 10 years ago. He is still in prison, and the reason is not the murders. The case is remembered as the birth of DNA evidence, and it deserves that. Within a decade, the technique was in every police force on Earth. But look at what actually happened. The science exonerated an innocent boy. That part worked perfectly. Then it was pointed at 5,000 men, and it was beaten by a photograph, glued into a passport, and 200 pounds. What was not beaten was a stranger at the next table. He was released on license in September 2021 and was back in prison within 11 weeks for approaching young women on supervised walks. In 2024, according to the Parole Board's own published decision, there was intelligence that he was grooming younger prisoners and spending his own money on them, and an allegation of sexual assault. In October 2025, the board refused to release him in these words.
We are not satisfied that there is no more than a minimal risk of him committing a further offense that would cause serious harm. It therefore continues to be necessary, for the protection of the public, that he remains confined. I regularly hear from those who still live in the villages of Narborough and Enderby, who have fond memories of growing up with these 2 young women and will never forget their tragic and untimely deaths.
Lynda Mann and Don Ashworth were both 15 years old. The thing that finally undid the man who killed them was not a laboratory. It was somebody deciding, eventually, to repeat what